welcome back to my channel. So I'm here at the Natural History Museum and we're actually behind the scenes with the Spirit collection, and I'm stood by one of the incredible specimens here, which is the giant squid. So they call it Archie, named after its species name, which is Artichutis dux. Might be absolutely butchering the pronunciation of that, but I'll write it on the screen for you guys to have a look at. Now, this specimen is about 20 years old now, so it was found in 2004 off the Falkland Islands. And it had quite a journey to get here, and an even bigger journey to actually get into this tank. And so it's preserved in formalin, which is a common chemical used to actually preserve specimens. So formalin is formaldehyde dissolved in water, and it's used to preserve a wide variety of specimens. And what we can see here is the curators and scientists at the Natural History Museum, they're actually picking off the last bits of ice that are on the specimen. So due to the way the squid's anatomy is, we've got these long thin tentacles that will obviously defrost a lot faster than the much thicker mantle. So when this specimen was found, it was frozen in order to preserve it and prevent it decaying further. But when you're actually defrosting it, you might see it with food when you're defrosting, you know, chicken or things like that. Certain parts of it defrost faster. So then the next challenge with this specimen again comes down to the anatomy. So you've got kind of long stringy arms and tentacles that are quite difficult to stretch out. So when they're all wrapped around the mantle, it kind of just looks like a big blob. But when you actually stretch it out, you realise this specimen is nearly 9 meters in length. And so it takes about 12 people to actually be able to move it, because it would likely be about 250 to 300 kilograms in weight. So it's extremely heavy and needed very careful curating in order to preserve it. So the formalin is injected into the specimen first. So this is to make sure that it's very carefully surrounded by the preservative. The next step is then to put it into a custom-made tank. That being said, it should be noted that formalin isn't without its flaws, and it is something to be careful with. So you can see here that the scientists are wearing eye protection and gas masks, because it does give off some nasty fumes if inhaled or, digested, or if you touch it. It is a dangerous chemical. But it also has a hardening effect on specimens, which can make it difficult for them to then work with for further research. But it can also be a positive. So it basically means the position they are preserved in is the position they remain in, which, is a positive or a negative, depends how you look at it. So it can be a bit unpleasant to handle these specimens, and you just have to be a bit more careful that you don't want to have skin contact with it. And after a while, the specimen will start to leak oil and fats into the surrounding liquid. So if you ever get the privilege to go and see Archie at the Natural History Museum in London, you might see that the liquid around is a little bit murky. Now, this is because the oils and fats from the squid itself are leaking into the surrounding liquid. And basically, this doesn't damage the specimen any further. It might, see slight deterioration, but the deterioration would be more so if they actually changed the formalin around it. But after a while, if you cannot see the specimen and it's, gone almost completely black because just too many liquids and oils and fats have oozed into the surrounding space, then they might replace it so that you can actually see into the tank. But I think in Archie's case, he still has a little bit more time before he'll need a replacement, but that will be one huge job, because opening a tank of formalin containing that many litres of formalin will need a lot of fumigation. Like, it will not be a small task, but that's something for the future. But you can still see him, and you can look eye to eye with a deep sea beast that is the basis of so many myths and legends. So it's very cool to see. So giant squids, they might seem like very rare species, and there's actually only one species of giant squid, which is a bit of confusion over the past centuries, because they thought there was actually 21 species, but this was due to parts of giant squids washing up, or pieces being found in sperm whales' stomachs, contexts, which are the main predators of the giant squid. However, there is actually one species, and they're not rare, so they're found in all the oceans. But they're found in a huge amount of depth of the ocean. So they don't really live on the seafloor, and they don't live on the surface. So the sightings of giant squid are very rare, because we've got this huge amount of ocean in between. So between 200 meters to 1,000 meters in depth. and they live within that part of the water column. So that's why they seem so rare, because they're so deep in the oceans, and when we actually see them or they get caught, it's usually when they're quite poorly. So there is a chance that Archie was a bit unwell, which is why he actually got caught by the fishermen. And there's also been another specimen of the giant squid which was found off the coast of New Zealand, I believe, and again it was found kind of in shallower depths. So usually if it's found shallower, they can't really survive there, so it might be because they're ill or dying. Let's break down the giant squid morphology for a second. So it's part of the cephalopoda family, and if we just look at its anatomy, it's very similar to a lot of squids. So we've got a mantle, which in the giant squid's case is around 2 meters long. Then there's a huge eye, which, you know, can get very, very large, around 27 centimeters in diameter. Then there's stabilizing fins, a funnel. Then there's 2 very long tentacles. Now these would be used to actually catch the prey. So it has 8 arms, and these would kind of, you know, be what the prey would kind of think it's dealing with, and it might then swim away from the squid, and then the squid would fling out the 2 long tentacles, and they are covered with suckers that have rotating kind of sharp rings within them. So they're very vicious when you actually look up close, and it would then latch onto the prey so it can't escape. So very efficient hunters in terms of their, you know, morphology, and also certain species of squid, because squids, there's quite a lot of them. There's very different types. They vary hugely. You may have seen recently on TikTok a very strange squid that definitely resembles, you know, a lot of alien-based stories. But there are other squids out there that actually hunt in packs. So you can imagine how scary it would be if giant squid hunt like that. Imagine 100 of these, you know, 10-meter long creatures just hunting all together. But we don't actually know loads about their life cycle, their lifestyle, how they kind of interact, but we do know is that they are a large food source for sperm whales. So when they open up the stomachs of sperm whales, they will find lots and lots of beaks, because giant squid and other squids actually have this beak structure, which is, you know, what they eat with, and it's hidden in their arms and tentacles. And then they're quite vicious when you actually get up close to them, and the sperm whales don't digest the beaks, so they just remain there. So, you know, some sperm whales will have hundreds or thousands of these just stored in their stomach. So pretty crazy stuff. And also sperm whales, we will see them washed up with almost like scars and attack wounds. So giant squid definitely give up a good fight when it comes to sperm whales, but yeah, the rest is still to be discovered. You may have heard of colossal squids and giant squids. Now they're actually separate species, and the colossal squid might sound like it's so much larger than the giant squid by its name, but it's actually just a completely different shape. So if we look at the bodies of a giant squid and a colossal squid, they're shaped quite different. So the colossal is heavier, it's larger, but it's got shorter arms and tentacles. Whereas the giant squid, it is longer, but it's got longer tentacles and longer arms than the colossal squid. So they're in fact quite different. And the colossal squid is only found in the polar regions of Antarctica. The giant squid has been the base of so many myths and legends over the past centuries. These legends of huge monstrous beasts big enough to take down ships that have been traced back to the 12th century. And it's been described as a huge squid or octopus with tentacles that can reach more than a mile long and eyes the size of dinner plates. And so these myths and legends, you might have heard of the Kraken, and they're known to attack ships and drag them down and devour the sailors as prey. And so these myths and legends could easily have originated from giant squid sightings, and they're believed to be actually more around 12 to 15 meters long, which is 40 to 50 feet in length. So still very terrifying, but not quite with mile-long tentacles as some of the stories suggest. But, you know, if you see a giant squid in the wild and you have no idea what it is, it's probably very easy to exaggerate it into something much larger, because it would be very, very frightening. So there's still lots that we need to learn about the giant squids, but unfortunately we have so few specimens to go off of that a lot of research and a lot of knowledge is still needed, but it is being done. So as time goes on, we'll find out a lot more about how these creatures actually live and behave and just what they're up to in the oceans. But thank you so much for watching. I really hope you guys have enjoyed today's video, and hopefully I'll see you next time.